Hello everyone, welcome back to another Flesh and Blood video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the second half of the set Bright Lights. Starting with the base Mechanologist cards. Some of these have boosts, some of them don't. A lot of them are boost synergies, but some of them are just the standard Mechanologist cards, mainly the Majestics. So with that said, let's get started. Starting with Heist. Heist is a 2-cost, 5-power red Majestic. It has 3 block. It is a Mechanologist attack. It has Boost. When this hits a hero, you may put an item with cost 0 or 1 from any banished zone into the arena under your control. This card's pretty strong into mech mirrors, specifically against maxes not running Hyper X3, as well as Dash IOs. But I do think that you're not going to play this card for the mirror because there's another card that's way better for a mech mirror, but also because you want to be playing this card when your deck puts 0 and 1 cost items into the banish zone. So obviously, if you're playing Max and you're not playing Hyper X3, if you're still playing Red Hyperdriver, which I think a lot of Max lists are, that card at Red seems really good. You can banish it off a boost and then put it into play with Heist, but I think the main deck that'll be using this card is going to be that Dash IO. Since you know the top card of your deck, you know what you're boosting, you can use Heist to guarantee that you put one of the items you banished if you didn't want to play it back into play. Other than that, I don't think this card will see much use. Maximum Velocity is a reprint. This is just here because it's a really good card in Max. I think the idea for this set was so that you could just buy this set and build a good deck. Teklovasin is pretty much only cards from this set, or at least can be only cards from this set. There might be a few upgrades you need, but mostly it is cards from this set. Same thing as Dash IO. You need her specs, but that's really about it. And Max does need a few older things, mainly the higher power boost cards, but you can still build a very good Max deck. And this was one of the cards that you probably would need to buy for Max, and now it's in the set, so you can pull it. I believe this one is also short printed here, though, since it is a reprint. Although don't quote me on that. I think that's how Maximum Velocity is in this set. Next, we have Moonshot. Moonshot is a yellow 3 attack, 3 block that costs double X. I don't know why this card is not a max specialization, but it isn't. It has the effects. Play this only if you've boosted this turn. As an additional cost to play this, destroy X hyperdrivers you control. When this attacks, it gets +3 for each hyperdriver destroyed this way, and if it is 10 or more power, it gets overpower. So pretty much you pay double X, so you pay 2 per driver you want to destroy, and then each driver you destroy gives you +3. Again, I don't know why this isn't a max spec. It kind of feels like Surgical to me. I guess Surgical was probably designed to also be playable in Azuri, but I feel like if it's a card that's so synergistic with the character, like Surgical is a part of a cycle, so I can understand why, but Moonblast feels like it is so designed for Max. I don't know why it isn't a spec. I guess the only specs in this set were Singularity, which that's fair to make that a spec, since you don't want Max or Dash turning into Teklovasin, and the 2 token weapons, which I think that's also fine to be specs, but this probably should have been a spec. It might have been hard to fit it on the card, and I don't know who else could play it, but I mean, Surgical is a menace, so I'm sure this card will see some play outside of Max at some point. But in Max, this card's good. I think you play it. It's a yellow. It can be a 2 for 6. That's the main thing. This card's a good 2 for 6. So, Moonshot, pretty good. Next is Steel Street Hoons. This is a 3-cost blue with 3 power and 2 block. It says if an item you control has been destroyed this turn, this gets +2. And when this defends, you may destroy an item you control. If you do, this gets +2. This is pretty much only super good inside of Dash IO, but I could see a reason to want to play this in Max. If a driver broke, this is a 3 for 5, and it's a blue, which is pretty nice, but since it doesn't block for 3 natively, that is a pretty big problem. You do have the break-in item, which Dash IO does have that capability. Max, not really, since drivers automatically break at 0, but you do play some items. So, this card, one for consideration. I think it's okay, but not my favorite. Next is Twin Drive. Twin Drive is a 2-cost, 5-power red card. It has 3 block, and it says boost, boost. Pretty much you just boost twice. Boosting twice won't give you 2 action points, since boost gains go again, not an action point. So you can't play this to gain double action points, but it is good. It lets you go 2 deep. Probably a little better in a Turbo Hyper X3, where you're just trying to get it online as fast as possible, since this is 2 boosts instead of 1. So I think Twin Drive is pretty good. I think it does have its uses. I don't remember what the synergy card was. It might have been... Oh yes, it is Max Velocity. So this card doesn't have synergy with Hanabi Blaster, because Hanabi Blaster has you play 3 cards that boost. But Maximum Velocity just needs you to have boosted 3 or more times. So you can play like some other boosts, like a 0 to 60, and then pitch a blue for Twin Drive, and then activate your Foundry Heart, and then come in with the 3-card Maximum Velocity. So including the Maximum Velocity for 19 if your 0 to 60 was red. So that could be pretty good. Other than that, I don't think this will see much play. So probably just Max. Next is Magnetic Lockwave. This is a blue 3-block. It costs 3x. Target hero chooses X equipment they control, then you choose one among them. That hero must defend your attacks with this card this turn. With that card this turn, if able. So you play this, your opponent chooses, I guess, like their Flame Scale Furnace, and then you make them block with the Flame Scale Furnace. Obviously, they're not going to. They're going to pick their shoes if you're against Stroma. You have to put multiple X into this, which makes this card feel really bad. Yes, it's a blue block 3, which is still playable, but you just have to spend 6 to try to get the equipment you want sometimes. Like, even against like the matchups where you need to eat their equipment, like against Wizard, like if you're playing against Kano, why are you paying 6 and spending a blue? But they're just going to choose Metacarpus nodes and Stormstriders, and this won't do anything. If you're playing against Icelander, they're just going to do the same thing. They'll give you your gloves, but they're always going to give you Stormstriders since they don't break. Against Ninja, they'll give you breaking, or against Katsu, they'll give you breaking scales, hardened cross strap. They'll give you whatever shoes they're playing because they don't blade break. This card doesn't really do much. I guess against something like Guardian, you can ship them down with their armor, but still, this card doesn't really seem the best to me. System Failure is a 1-cost action. It blocks 2. It's yellow. It has you remove all steam counters from target equipment, item, or weapon, and if 2 or more are removed this way, you deal 2 damage to that item's controller. I think this is really only good into the Dash IO matchup. Vesson isn't playing many items. Against Old Dash, you're only removing 1 usually, unless I guess like a Teklo core just came down. Against Max, sure, you shoot a driver down, which could be pretty good, but that's alright. Against Dash IO, you take her whole weapon down, or you take a big item down. So this one's actually not bad into Dash IO. I think that's really the only time you'll see this card. Although it does get 2 damage in. So pretty good in like sealed environments too. System Reset is a yellow action. It blocks 3 and it costs X. You banish X Mechanologist items you control with cost 0 or 1, then return them to the arena under the owner's control. Pretty good. Again, probably only -IO, since you can just play this for like 2, reset both your items. Then next turn you have them at full power. Well, mostly at full power. They do lose 1 steam counter, but probably also good with Teklo Core. You can use this in Teklo Core at the end of a large turn to just reset the Teklo Core. So, pretty good. I do like it. Also, a lot of the older items break not when they're at 0, but at the start of the turn when they're at 0. So, on the turn they go to 0. Even some of the newer items do that. So, when the turn they go to 0, if you don't use them, if they're like a grenade or they get, like I said, they're Teklo Core, you just reset them. So I think this is definitely one that should be experimented with, but I don't think it's the best card. The final Majestic is Fabricate. This is a 0 cost instant. It's red and it has you choose 2. Equip a base equipment with Proto in its name from your inventory. Evo permanents you control get +1 block this turn. Put this under an Evo permanent you control, and you may banish an Evo from your hand. If you do, draw a card. This is really just a Teklo card, so that's it. I think there's a reason to want to play it in Teklo, but I think it takes up a little too much sideboard space. Teklo doesn't use all of his sideboard. I'll say that now. I think the cards you want to be playing normally are the cards you want to be playing all the time. So it feels hard to sideboard with him, but I still don't know if the Fabricate package is good enough, because you have to be on the Protos pretty much one of each in your sideboard, which could work, although you have the ability to swap into the red equipment, which can't break by blocking, so it's really only good into heroes that can destroy your equipment naturally, like Dromai and like Bravo. So, hard to tell on Fabricate. I think it's okay, but this one, again, needs a little more experimenting, just like System Reset. Moving on to the rares, like I said in the last one, we'll just be reading the red version, and I'll mention the other versions if the change is significant. Bulbar is a 2 cost, 5 power, 3 block. It has boost, and if you control a hyperdriver, this gets overpower. Probably just going to be good in draft and sealed, but I do think could be okay in max. Spring a Leak is a 2 for 5 with 3 block. It has boost, and when it hits, you remove all steam counters from an equipment, item, or weapon they control. Actually a good sideboard card for Dash, probably a little better than System Failure if you're playing someone like Max. So, pretty nice one. Big Shot, Burn Rubber, and Smash and Grab are only in red. So, these next 3, there's only a red version. Big Shot is a 3 cost for 6 that has 3 block. It says if you've boosted 2 or more times this turn, this gets +2. A pretty good popper if you need more of them, which Mech already has a lot, so probably not. Burn Rubber is a 3 for 5 with 3 block. That gets +2 and can't be defended by equipment if you've boosted 2 or more times. Good into things like the Bravo matchup, maybe the Dromai matchup, definitely the Teklo matchup. And then finally, Smash and Grab is a 3 for 5 with 3 block, where if you've boosted 2 or more times this turn, this gets +2, and when this hits, gain control of an item they control. So, good in the max mirror, okay in the -IO mirror, just good into mech as well. I think this card is a little better than Spring a Leak if you're only looking for 1 slot, since I think removing all their steam counters isn't as important than taking their item, but I do see a reason to want both. And of course, all 3 of these just seem really good in draft or sealed, where you can definitely build a deck around playing these. Next is Gigawatt. Gigawatt is a 1-cost action with 2 block that gives your next Mechanologist attack +4. Pretty good. I do like it. I don't think it'll see constructed play, but it's a good pump. Next is Firewall. This is a card we already talked about from the Round the Table decks. I thought it was okay. I probably a little lower on it now, looking at what and how Tecluvescent is built. So I'm a little more down on it. I'm also pretty down on blocks. I think the only good blocks are the blue one that gets +1 for each Evo you control. And that's probably it. So really there's very few good blocks. Maybe if the Tiger Trap, whatever the ninja one was, maybe if that came in red, that one would be good, but it didn't. So a little niche. Next is pretty much just lower powered reprints of the mech cards we already have. 0 to 50 is just 1 less power 0 to 60. Razzle Dazzle is just 1 less power zipper hit. And Full Tilt is just 1 less power throttle. So they need to be here because they're just general good cards, but they're not as good as their other versions and probably won't see constructed play. Gas Guzzler is a new baseline though, and is a 3 for 6 at red, so could see play. Obviously Throttle's better, it costs 1 less, it's strictly better, but if this one's actually a popper, 6 is pretty big, makes them use 2 cards to not take anything, and 2 3 blocks at that, so could be playable, and it's another breakpoint. There are better cards in the set, like one of the ones we'll be talking about soon, but there are like direct upgrades to this, which is fine since this is just a baseline card. Next is Crankshaft, which is a reprint, but a card that is not a reprint, Big Bertha, that does the same thing but for 1 more cost and 1 more power. This is one of the cards that's one of the direct upgrades to Gas Guzzler, and it's really good. This and the other one, Rev Up, will definitely see play in bigger max decks that want to play a little slower and a little taller. Playing maybe 2 or 3 boost cards a turn instead of 3 to 4, while still getting that higher damage from these bigger attacks. And Big Bertha, just like Crankshaft, when it's banished from boosting, you get a counter on your Hyperdriver. Gives you more resources if you end up getting rid of it off a boost. Jumpstart is also a reprint. This costs 1 less if you control a Hyperdriver. Pretty good. I like it. Rev Up is another 3 for 6. This one costs 1 less if you control a Hyperdriver, similar to Jumpstart. So a good new card. I think again sees play in max. This is really like extra throttles in max if you really like throttle. Next is Data Link. This is a 0 for 3 with 3 block. It has boost, and when this hits, opt 1. Pretty good in Dash IO. Could be okay in max, but probably just better in Dash IO. Although I do think max does play this because 0 for 3s are pretty good. Dive Through Data is a 1 for 4 with the same text, just an increased stat version. Sprocket Rocket is a 0 for 3 that has boost, and if an item or equipment was banished by boosting this gets +1. Possibly a 0 for 4. Really good in Tecluvescent, one of the better boost attacks he could be playing, since you can banish one of the equipment to make this come in for 4. As well as Max will play this for when he hits a driver, and Dash probably wants to consider playing this. Dumpster Dive is the same, but a 1 for 4. Those will happen a lot, just like this next cycle. It's the same way. Expedite is a 0 for 3 with boost. When it hits, you can put an item of cost 0 or 1 from your hand into play. Good in max, good in dash. Med-X is a 1 for 4 with the same effect. This is probably the most playable of the 1-cost versions of the 0 costs. Dive Through Data is pretty niche, and Dumpster Dive, I wouldn't want to pay 1 for the effect, since it's mainly there to banish the item. But Med-X is really good. And you could do the banishment with the Med-X, right? Because you're just boosting it. So Med-X actually good in Dash and Max, since you can put those items into play from your hand. And this is a breakpoint, so they have to use something more than just like a normal card. Outpace is a 1 for 4 with boost that can't be defended by equipment. Lay Waste is a 2 for 5 with the same effect. Fair enough. One's weaker, one's stronger, one costs more. That's fine. Fender Bender is a 1 for 4 that gets plus X, where X is the number of defending equipment, and it has boost. Panel Beater is the same, but a 2 for 5. Again, these are just commons for draft sealed. I don't think all these are going to see play, but they're actually, some of these might see play. Outpace, I think, is already seeing play. The 0 cost ones are really good. Med-X is good, but these are mainly here just to fill packs. Underloop is a 1 for 4 that when it hits, put it on the bottom. I think this was also in the round table decks. Overloop is just the stronger version of Underloop. Gas Up is a 1-cost action with 2 block. The next attack you boost this turn gets plus 4, and you can put a Hyperdriver from your banish zone into the arena. This one's a little niche, since a lot of the decks that want to be banishing Hyperdrivers have Hyper X3, so you're not going to be able to get them out from your banish zone that easily. So I think this is the worst pump, but it's still a good pump. It still pumps by a breakpoint. Quickfire is a 2-cost action with 2 block. It costs 1 less for each Hyperdriver you control, and the next attack you boost gets plus 4. So good again. This card is a little better, probably only in max, but it could be a free additional breakpoint, which is pretty nice. The last pump, Recharge, is a 1 for plus 4 if it's a boosted attack, and you put a counter on a Hyperdriver you control. So for 1 resource now, this card's pretty much free in theory. I'll just shorten what I was going to say. This card is pretty much free in theory, since you're putting a counter on a driver, which is 1 resource later. So it's just a free plus 4 then. And then the final common inside of the set is Techlinetic Force Field. This is a block with 3 defense, and it says when it defends an attack with overpower, it gets plus 2. Good into the overpower attacks, but really that's about it. If you're not planning on blocking something with overpower, this is just a normal 3 block. Finally, we get to talk about the main reason why non-mechanologist players are buying this set. I guess, yes, there's a Hyperdriver token here, but we don't need to talk about it. That is the expansion slot. A lot of new cards here. Some of them might be bad, but some of them are really good. Shriek Razor is a brand new legendary for Assassins. It says, while this is in your graveyard, at the start of your turn, you may destroy 2 silvers you control if you do equip this. The standard Assassin legendary gimmick. Attack reaction. 2 resource, destroy this. Target attack action card defending an Assassin attack gets -1. As well as Battle Worn with 1 block. Very similar to the others. This effect is kind of like a mini Shred, which makes sense since these... I haven't looked at Shred in a while, but I believe these are the same gloves on Shred. And it would make sense since, I mean, they're the same type of effect. I think this card is pretty good. I don't know if it's better than Flick Knives. I think if you were to play a Contract Zuri, this would be one to consider, but other than that, probably not. This card seems good in a slower Arachne list as well, since you can generate a ton of silver to keep buying this back. So one that I do like. Already Dead is a 2 for 6 with 3 block. It is another Assassin card. It is Contract. You are contracted to banish opponents' non-action cards. Whenever you complete this contract, create a silver token. Pretty much instants, equipment, reactions, those types of things. When this hits a hero, banish the top card of their deck and a defending card. So could just eat equipment if you shred or shriek raids or something. Guarantee you get a hit. Really good. This card will see play. It will already, I think it's already seeing play in Azuri since it's a 2 for 6. A perfect contract Azuri card, a 2 for 6 that has a good contract effect, as well as an Arachne. This will just be a strong card. It's a good 2 for 6. You can't hate a good 2 for 6. Smashing Performance. It's a brand new yellow brute card. It is 3 cost, 6 power, and 0 block. There are 2 things they love doing to brute. 3 things they love doing to brute. It's 0 cost cards, a ton of randomness, and no blue 6 powers. So here we have a yellow 6 power. That does not block. When this attacks, draw a card, then discard a random card. I would prefer to just have a random discard. If a card with 6 or more power is discarded this way, destroy a random item in the arena. Why is the item random? I don't know. I think this card would be playable if even the draw and discard effect is fine. I don't personally like those types of effects, but if you have a 2-card hand, you just have this and a blue, and you need to play this, sure. But why is the item random? Why is everything random? This is going to be a small rant here, but like, the one reason I play a lot of Ninja now instead of Brute is because their effects aren't random. Katsu can tutor his whole deck. Fi has super consistent turns, even Icelander. It's just disruption, poke. No randomness. Yes, the cards you draw are random, sure, but you can make it work. Every deck has that. Why do they need to think that Brute is just all the random? Before, where it was just, discard a random card, get an effect if you discarded a 6, that was fine, because you can set that up. Same as Levia, you can set up your discard pile. Yeah, there's some luck there, but it's very low that you don't hit at least 1 6 to shut Blood Debt off. As well as now you have Blasphemet, so even if you do end up taking a huge chunk of Blood Debt, you're fine. But they just decide dice rolls, fully random discards since you draw before, destroy a random item. Why would you ever play this card when you could just play Arg Smash? Arg Smash can destroy more items. Arg Smash can destroy items targeted. Arg Smash blocks. The only difference between the cards is Arg Smash isn't a 6 power. And Arg Smash, you could roll a 1. But if you ever roll a 4, you get to destroy 2 items, which is always better than Smashing Performance. So, I don't understand why they keep printing these cards. I hope that when we get a Brute set, there's just no RNG in it. I don't care if the cards, obviously there's going to be some RNG because they're probably going to be like Intimidate and stuff. But like, don't make this. We can have draw before discard, that's fine. I guess we can have cards that don't block. I really don't want cards that don't block in Brute. That's another thing. Yes, it's a 6. You can discard it. But if there's ever a turn where I'm just getting hit and I have to block, I just die because I drew this 0 block card. And don't give us random item destruction again, please. Because what happens when you're playing the Dash matchup and they have 3 boom grenades in play and you destroy their Teklo core that was going to go away next turn anyway? This card does nothing. Please don't play this card. Please just play Arc Smash instead. And if you're maxing out on 3 Arc Smash, you don't need to play this card for more item destruction. 3 Arc Smash is enough. 2 Arc Smash is enough, to be honest. You only need to find 1. Tectonic Rift is a blue 2-block Guardian action. It costs X, and you create X Seismic Surge tokens, and then it has Go again. Pretty nice. Personally, I don't think this card is super good, but I do think it is playable. My main problem with it is that it is not a block 3. Although you could say that this is like an Awakening, where Awakening gave you a bunch of Seismic Surges. However, Awakening was also a tutor, and I think that's where this card kind of also falls flat. In comparison, where Awakening gave you the surges and the attack to play, where this just gives you the surges and has to be done on your turn, so you're not throwing the biggest attack the same turn. Next turn, yes, but if you're forced to ever block, your turn could be disrupted, although I guess if you're blocking, you have a ton of surges, so it's fine. A good turn 1 card, a good late game card, probably, so you can maybe set up a big turn, maybe make 9 surges, and then or 6 surges, and then Arsenal, like a Crippling Crush, could be pretty nice. But I think this card probably won't see the most play, mainly because it is a 2-block, and Guardian pretty much only wants 3. Wax Off is a 0-cost blue. It has 2-block. If you've played Wax on this turn, create a Zen State token. What is Wax On? Well, it's a 0-cost 3-block that gets 2 more block if you block a 0-cost card. So, honestly, actually playable into Lexi. I think this card will be a strong Control Katsu card. I don't know if it will bring Control Katsu back. I've been working on a list. So, maybe Control Katsu comes back with the help of Wax Off, but not the strongest card here. Sucks it blocks 2, but Ninja cards block 2. That's perfectly fine. And it technically does block 3 because of the Zen State token that you are creating. So, pretty nice. Emboldened Blade is a 0-cost warrior action. It has 3 block. Turn a face-down card in any arsenal face-up. If it's a defense reaction card, destroy it. Your next weapon attack gets +1 power if you destroyed the card. And then go again. This is Command and Conquer. Yay! Not really. This is more like Wreck Havoc than Command and Conquer. You see their arsenal. If it's a D-React, you get rid of it. Pretty good into control matchups. Things like Guardian, things like Tree Frog Dash. Any of those decks that play a high count of D-Reacts. Obviously, something like a Sand Cover won't go away because that's an instant, but you'll still get Dromai's, Sinks, and their Fates. So, pretty good. I do really like this card. I think it will see play. Probably in main boards, since it is a blue. You can also destroy your own D-Reacts to get +1 power, which you probably won't do, but you can. And it is a blue block 3. That's the main reason. It's a good blue block 3 that's playable sometimes if they have an arsenal. So I do really like this card. This might be the most sleeper card I've seen out of this expansion slot. Intoxicating Shot. I was going to say the only specialization, but I forgot we also had the Viz spec. Is a new Riptide specialization. It is a blue 0-cost. That blocks 3. Very fitting for Riptide. All 3 of his other specs do that. But this one isn't a trap. This is a 4-power arrow. It reads, other than Riptide specialization and the arrow's reminder text, when this hits a hero, they create a Courage and a Quicken token. Why are we giving them a Courage and a Quicken token? Because that turns on 2/3 of our traps, being the Go Again trap and the Increased Power trap. Obviously, won't do the Reaction trap. I'm sure they could have made a new token that does both of those that they have to use. That's a reaction to trigger all 3 traps, but oh well. I think this card's pretty good late game, since they either have to use cards from their hand to stop it, or get hit with a bunch of traps, or even in the early game, you can just set up big trap turns to shut them down. So I do think this card's really cool. Definitely on theme for Riptide. I also wish it gave you the tokens so you could play a little more aggressive, but oh well, it's good as it is, I suppose. The other spec that I actually forgot about before I talked about the last card, Sonata Phantasmia, is a XX cost blue block 3 Runeblade action. It is a Viserai spec, and it has you create X Runechant tokens. Wow, it's just like Tectonic Rift. However, there is another effect here. If X was 6 or greater, target hero discards 3 cards. So, yes, you need to pay 12 to do that. A lot, I will say, but in a certain situation where you ever do use that effect, you pretty much make their opponent skip their next turn, and you get 6 Runechants. So for an OTK Viz, even just normal Viz, this card is a blue action that blocks 3. It's playable. Even if you only pitch it or discard it, it'll be useful late game, probably. I don't hate this card. I think it's definitely playable for Viz. It won't put Viz back in the meta. It just needs to be a Viz meta for him, but I do really like this card. Next is Contest the Minefield. This is a blue 2-cost wizard aura. It is 2 block. It makes all heroes have -1 intellect, and at the start of your turn, destroy this. They've really said stacks piece, huh? This card probably won't see play in Kano because it's a blue that only blocks 2. Even though it's a blue, you just pitch it. I like my cards to block 3 in Kano. However, for Icelander, you can play this on your opponent's turn, possibly with the Tunic up, so you can also Waning Moon. Not disrupt them that turn specifically, but on the next turn, they'll have less cards. So if you can get another arsenal to set up another disruptive piece, it could be pretty good. So I do like Contest the Minefield. A little worse when you just play it on your turn, but still possibly another play if you really wanted to. Next is Phantom Tidemaw. This is a 0-cost blue illusionist instant aura. It has the effects: whenever an illusionist card you control is destroyed, put a +1 counter on this. And it also has Phantasm and Ward. So no Spectra, but if they do block it with something strong enough, it'll die, and if they deal you damage, it'll die. Probably a little weak because of that, but if you are on Prism, which I don't see why this card would see play in Dromai, but I guess it can. If you're on Prism, it's already a 3 for 4. You already sort of have the ward to protect it with the Angels and the Shield. So, really good. Also, this card could just like get huge if you have like 6 shields in play, because they get destroyed. I'm pretty sure shields are illusionists. I don't see why they wouldn't be. So you just like get this +6, swing for 10, 11. You do a lot. This card is really strong but very fragile. Next is Tome of Imperial Flame. This is a 0-cost draconic action. It is red. Obviously, it's draconic. I don't think there's a draconic majestic that isn't red. draw a card. If you're royal, instead draw 2 cards. You may pitch 2 red cards if you do banish your. If you don't, sorry, if you don't if you don't pitch 2 red cards, banish your hand. You gain the resources for the cards you pitched, and then go again. So really good in Emperor and Dromai. This card is seeing so much play in Dromai right now. I can't believe they gave Dromai another card. This card is crazy. So, people are starting to go back to Royal Dromai because of this card. This card pretty much just says draw 2, gain 3 resource. Pitch 2 cards. Because you played a red, so you can activate Furnace. You already have resources, and you have 2 red cards in your pitch, so you go to 3. And yeah, you pitch your 2 cards. So it's like a red. It's Chain Starter that gives you 3 resource and card filtration. Drawn a blank, but you know what I mean. Card selection. You see more cards. You get the idea of what you want. Really good. Also, really good in the Emperor. In Emperor, you can play this, pitch 2, activate Furnace, and then tutor out the CNC with his effect. So I think this card will see a lot of play in him as well. Probably not in Phi, since I don't know why you would play Royal Phi. And if you're not Royal, this is a minus. So, not good there, but definitely Dromai. This card is insane. Dromai also gets another card. Dust from the Chrome Caverns. It's the dust, but for Chromai. Chromai is the best dragon. You need this for the Bravo matchup. That's about it. Chromai is the best dragon in that matchup. Every other deck can try to kill the Chromai, where you just swing into it. So the Phantasm isn't the most. So no Phantasm isn't the most important thing. But into Bravo, who can't, if he can't pop a dragon, he really can't kill it, while also pressuring you. This card is insane. Absolutely insane. Great sideboard card for Dromai. Next, Warband of Bologna, the second to last legendary in the set. Warband is a light warrior head. It is 2 block and temper. Action for 2 resource. Destroy this. The next time you attack this turn, you may charge your hero's soul. If a yellow card was charged this way, draw a card. Pretty weak for some reason with the newer attacks, since they have to charge it. And this also has to charge for this effect. So I guess if you want to charge 2, you get the cycle. It's better with the older ones, since you could skip the charge on them and then charge with this. Still get the charge effect and cycle. But other than that, I mean, this is 3 extra health if you don't use the effect. So, really good. I can't wait for Bolton to get their hands on this one. The final actual card, the actual new card, is Slay. This is a 0-cost red shadow instant, and it just destroys target angel ally. Why did they need to print this? No idea. I think this is just a flavor card, unless they decide to make more angel allies. But, I mean, I thought Vincett's matchup into Prism was already super easy. So, cool. The final card in the set is a reprint of Findle Spring Tunic. Perfect for anyone getting into the game. This is the most played legendary, the most needed legendary for pretty much every deck, except the 3 in this set, which is a little weird, but that's perfectly fine. If this card stays in every expansion slot, that will be perfectly okay. I think it's fine to have this in the set, because everyone could use another Findle's Spring Tunic. And then finally, we have the Quicken token, making this a 250 exactly card set. That is everything. I didn't miss anything, probably. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Next week, I don't know if we're going to take a look at the file list or not. I could post a box opening if I decide to record it. Maybe. But, other than that, I hope you guys have a good day. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.